Hello, my name is Carl Surrey, and this is a video tutorial for the Facebook group called Fans of Serif Software. And in this tutorial, which I think will end up being a two-part tutorial, I'll be looking at using macros within PhotoPlus X8, but it also works in earlier versions, at least as far back as X6. And I'm sure it was earlier than that as well that macros are used. If you look out down here in the bottom right hand corner, where the area that I call the layers display area, you have three tabs: layers, channels and macros, and it is macros that we are going to be looking at. But first what I will do is I will collapse these two top panels so that I can extend this lower panel. So when I click on the macros, because some of the listings are quite long, so we'll be able to see all the different options better if I've collapsed all these previous ones, as I don't need those. Now macros are little programs within the program that have been set up by Serif, but you can make your own macros as well. I will be looking at making macros in the second video, which I will be making at a later date. Now these macros that Serif have set up are placed into different categories. By default it opens on black and white photography, and these are all the macros within that option, but there's a little downward arrow up here in the right, so if you click on that, there are other options with different categories. If I just go, for example, go to frames, as you can see there's different types. I'll go back to black and white photography, and I will be going to use different macros on this image, which is an image I got off the internet from a free, royalty-free image site called pixabay.com, and I will use the different macros, and then once you see the results I will just click undo and then try another one. I'm not going to save any of the different versions, and you'll just to show you how each different macros work, and I'm not going to look at every single one. If you want to try them out, I will leave that up to you, but in my opinion a lot of these macros are not really that necessary. Probably some of them are more geared towards the beginners of using PhotoPlus and photo editing in general, but some can be very technical, and it's a lot easier to use the macro than it is to try and do it yourself. One of the best examples of that I would say would be the frame options, which can be quite effective. But I'll just look at this grayscale one first of all. Before you can actually run a macro, you have to click on it to highlight it, which if I did that there, now you can see that the little blue arrow down the bottom here will now become active, because before, when I wasn't I wasn't clicked on any of these options, only the yellow folder icon was active, which is to make a new category, but that will be more in video 2. So once you've clicked on a macro option, the little blue arrow becomes active, and once you click that, the macro will run. But just to show you the options that are going to happen when you run, and next to each heading there's a little arrow. If you click on that, so it points down, it will show you what it is going to do. Now the grayscale option, there is only one task that the macro is going to do, and that is it's going to make it black and white. Now there is a tick in this box which you can enable the command or disable the command. Now, in this particular case, with only one task to be performed, disabling it would be pointless because it would just stay, the image would just stay as it is. In the box next to it, it is blank at the moment, and if I click into that, it will put a little icon, and again this enables or disables the dialog. So basically what this would do, if you don't have an icon in here, the macro will use the options set by Serif, or the default settings for that particular tool. So as that is highlighted, I will press play, and it has turned that option, that image, to black and white. So if I go back to undo and put an icon in that box, when I press play this time, what happens is the tool comes up. So I could make alterations if I want, if you don't want to stick to Serif's defaults. But I'm just going to stick to the Serif defaults and click OK, and it will go back to exactly as it was, as if I hadn't have added that icon in that box. So I'll go back to undo twice to get back to where I was. So if I look at the infrared, if I look at all the different options in infrared, they are 5 options that it will go through, not options, tasks that it will go through when you click run or play. Now, as I haven't actually highlighted infrared yet, now if I click to play, it would actually run grayscale. So I need to click on infrared dreamy, click play, and it does it quite quickly, but I hope you saw that it went through all those different options one at a time to make this image. So I'll click undo, and like before, if I put an icon into any of these boxes, it will pause the tasks and lets you to make alterations outside of Serif's defaults. So I'll stick one in the Gaussian blur task and then do play, so it should go through black and white channel and then duplicate and then pause when it gets to Gaussian blur. And up here you have the Gaussian blur option box, which I could blur it more if I wanted or less, but I'll just click OK and let the macro carry on with its tasks. So now that is that task finished. So again I will click undo to get back to the color version. I will close these down, and I'll just look at one more in the black and white photography section. Let's go with orange filter. So again, it's just going to add some what would replicate what would an orange filter look like on a camera taking black and white picture. So highlight that particular one, click play, and again it's just another black and white image. Right, looking at the next, or one of the next ones, let's look at commands. Now this is more geared, in my opinion, towards a beginner. So if you don't know how to cut and paste something, it will, if you've made a selection, let me just make a selection, say of her eye, it will copy, delete, and delete selection. So if I highlight that and run it, it will have cut that section out. So if I then wanted to paste what I've copied, I need to click on that one, and what this will do is paste in a new layer. So if I had the layers panel open, you can now see I've got the background layer and the layer with the eye on it, which I can move around however I want. So let's just undo that, press Ctrl and D to get rid of the selection, go back to macros. So as you can see, there's lots of different options here. You can change the canvas size, you can flip it, rotate it, you can even flatten the image. But I mean, it's just as easy to go to, layers and merge, and then you could flatten the image that way. But like I said, I think these options are more for novices, to help them do a task without really having to spend too much effort. Next one I want to look at is effects. Now this one can be quite good, and there are, like a lot of these macros, there are some that are really over the top in my opinion, and I can't see anybody ever wanting them, but there are a couple of good ones, like the pencils and pen sketch ones. Let's try the pen. Again, there's only a couple of options here, and then press play, and that one doesn't come out so well. If I click undo and then add a icon in the gradient map and then press play, you could alter how the gradient map works. In this particular case it didn't work so well. On other images that I've tried it does work well. So I'll just cancel all that. Oh, it's already gone back to the start image. Let's try the pencil sketch one. Again, very similar. Negative film. So it's look a very spooky kind of image. I'll click undo on that one. Selection blur. Now this one, if I I think you need to make a selection. Oh, I'm still on negative film highlighted. Let me undo that and actually highlight selection blur and then click play. See, that area up there has not been blurred and the rest of it has. I'm guessing you could have actually made a selection. Let me try making a selection. Let's try the eye again and then try running it. It seems to have made this side unblurred now. Oh, the area I selected is blurred and everything else isn't. Quite why you would need that, I really don't understand. Like I said, some of these are rather odd macros. Let's look at one last one. Let's try the heavy pencil sketch, see whether this one's any better. Oh, that's a bit better. So that's the different effects that you can use. Now, like I said before, the frames one I think is quite good. Let's start at the bottom, click on play, and it will make the picture bigger and then make it look like a frame. And it's so much easier doing it that way than doing it yourself, because as you can see there is an awful lot of options to make what looks like a fairly simple thing, these two layers making this frame. But as you can see, all these tasks here is what was needed to make that frame. So I'll undo that one And I'll look at the modern frame with surround, and as you can see, again, there's an awful lot of tasks to perform. Highlight it, press play, and then you've got a different type of frame, more with a black outer edge. So I'll undo that and go up to the next one. See, a lot of these have many tasks. See, this has got a wooden outer edge, or wooden style. So undo that. So they're the different frames that you can make, or some of them that you can make. Now you could make a brand new document, be it landscape or portrait. I mean, I know it's fairly easy to do from the Startup Assistant, but you can also do it from here. So I could make a portrait one, and then you can select what size you want, and then just click play, and it will make a new document. So it is probably a bit quicker than going through the Startup Assistant. Let me just get rid of that one. And let's go for textures. Now, as you can see, there's an awful lot of textures available. Some of them are quite good, and some of them I personally think are horrendous, but that's just my personal opinion. Now, texture is just adding some grain or colour to an image to make it look different. For example, let's try the canvas one. There's only a few tasks for it to perform, but I'll click play, and it's, if I zoom in a bit, hopefully you can see that there is some textures added to her skin and other parts of the image. Just click undo and try the wood option. So it looks like it's printed on wood. Recycled paper option. So again, if I zoom in, hopefully you can see there's the texture on her skin. It shows up best. So it looks like paper. Click undo. Now, some of these, like I said, in my opinion, are horrendous. Let's see if I can remember which one it was now. Let's try swarm. It's just like loads of red dots. Quite why you'd want to do that to one of your images, I've really no idea. Let's look at water. See, again, personally I think that's horrible. But there are many of different textures there that you can look at. Or lava was another one which I thought was particularly horrible. I mean, again, why you'd want to do that to your image, I don't know. But everybody's taste is different. You may like that look. I personally do not. Right. Let's look at selection. Now, the selection options, you obviously need to make a selection, so I will again just select her eye there, and you can then add a border to that selection. So the border, let's go number of pixels and then click OK. So it's added another selection border outside of that border. Quite what you are supposed to do with that, I must admit, I don't really know, but I'm sure there is a task that could be performed. We just reselect the eye, and I'll feather and center option now. Press play. Let's just alter the size a bit. Click OK, and then it will center that selection in the middle of the document and remove the rest of it. I could see how that could be quite effective if you sort of wanted just that part of an image on another image, and you could make this a layer on that above another image and then blend it so it worked better. Okay, the last one I want to have a look at is layout blurs. Now I want to use these ones to demonstrate something that is called, one of the tasks is called stop. Now this is something that you can add to a macro, and it will stop the tasks in their tracks, and you can, if you've got this icon added, it will add a little text box where you can then add some instructions or just a little note explaining about what's going on or what you're trying to do or whatever. So if I highlight this one and then press play, when it starts going down the task, when it gets to the stop task, it will stop and display a box of text. And it's just saying that a small image file, which is this one here, which they've made it smaller, was created for use for this macro by pressing continue, and if you press continue and don't save the image, the macro will continue processing the original image. So just press continue, and when it asks if you want to save, say no, and what it will do is place a smaller version above the bigger version, but the bigger version has been blurred. So let me just click undo, collapse that one, and this one would be very similar. Again, it should have a stop. There we go, it has a stop task. So I'll click that one. It should be virtually the same, except the background would be black and white rather than colour. Save, no, and there you can see the background is black and white and the foreground is a smaller colour version. Click undo. So there you can see, you can check out the other options to your heart's content, and there are quite a few different ones I have not looked at, like vignettes and the text outlines, which I must admit I've never really looked at myself, mainly because I don't really use text that much with images. But at a guess, I imagine if you made a text layer and you use bevel, for example, it would make that effect. Alright, just for fun, for the first time ever, I will try this. Let's try, just do card. So make that white so it's visible. Oh yeah. Well, let's try bright red. Might make the bevel effect stand out better. Let's try bevel, play. There you go, if I zoom in. So it's just sort of made a bevel effect around that text layer which I've made. So that is what you can do with the text options. So that is the finish of this part, looking at how to use the ready-made macros, and in the next video, which I'll hopefully make as soon as possible, I will show you how to make your own macros for tasks that you perform quite a lot. Right, thank you for watching and listening, and goodbye.